Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the reports in the Telegraph that the government have set a deadline of July 12th to deal with the Northern Ireland Protocol, or else. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, sort of following on from our first video, what the government say they will do, of course, and what they actually intend are frequently two different things. So I think you always have to take briefings to the press, particularly when it's unattributable, with a pinch of salt. But the Telegraph, which to understand their motivation is pro-Brexit and pro-conservative, but did not support a hard Brexit. They, for example, were in favour of extending the transition period. Now, they are reporting that the government has given the EU 2 months to make the Northern Ireland Protocol work. Now, a couple of things early on in the article which need to be debunked immediately, I think. See, first, just saying that the EU need to make it work without adding comment there is deeply misleading. I mean, even getting past the fact that this is just typically Boris Johnson again, it's the EU need to solve all our problems. We're taking back control by leaving the EU. Oh yeah, we've got problems, but the EU need to deal with them, not us. Where's the control then? But anyway, it's also misleading. Like, if the government were actually telling the EU to make the protocol work, if that's actually what they were doing, there wouldn't be a problem. I'm sure the EU would be delighted. If the UK government genuinely had gone to the EU Commission and said, you need to make the protocol work, do you know what they would do? They would happily point Boris Johnson and David Frost to the agreement from late last year on the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol and simply say, do this. There you go. Do that. Solved. Easy. But of course, that's not what the government are doing. Now, the second immediate bone of contention is when they said, quote, ministers are increasingly worried about the way the European Union is enforcing checks when goods move from Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Direct quote. Now, I mean, I could poke at the fact that the sentence is grammatically dodgy because the protocol doesn't say anything about goods moving from Northern Ireland as such. I think what they mean is between Britain and Northern Ireland. But never mind that. The right-wing press is full of illiterates. The real point is that the EU aren't enforcing checks at all. I mean, look at the situation. How mad is the situation? How can ministers be concerned with the way the EU are enforcing checks in a place that's not the EU? It's the UK that enforces the checks because the checks take place in the UK. The EU aren't in there. In case the Brexiteers hadn't noticed, we're not in the EU anymore. We're not EU members, so the EU aren't here. You know, they have no customs officials doing anything with the checks other than monitoring. And I'm not even sure how much monitoring has actually really geared up yet, but that's all they're doing. Checks in the UK are carried out by UK customs officials. In fact, if the EU were carrying out checks on behalf of the UK government in its own territory, then how would the unilateral refusal to end the grace periods on time have occurred? Because if it's the EU carrying out checks, well, they wouldn't have agreed to it. In fact, they didn't agree to it. They've taken legal action because of it. I mean, that's what unilateral means. The EU didn't agree to it. So if the EU were carrying out these checks, they'd have begun, right, no, the grace period on this has ended now, so we can't let this through. The article also quotes unnamed government sources, which used to mean Dominic Cummings, but I don't know now, pushing the idea that the protocol breaches the Good Friday Agreement. Okay. So how come they didn't say that when they came up with it, agreed to it, fought a general election campaign on the strength of it, and then voted it into law? Another quote at the end of the article went, if the EU's only concern is the protection of the single market, the arrangement risks becoming unsustainable. I thought, ooh, that possibly says more than they intended. See, the hardline Brexiteers in the Conservative Party delivered their hard Brexit by backing the Northern Ireland Protocol in order to get it voted through, and then planned to drop the whole thing. I remind people that a senior Brexiteer in the Conservative Party, Steve Baker, explained this last year. He explained that his group, the ERG, only backed the protocol because Boris Johnson gave them private assurances that he was going to renege on it later. As far as they are concerned, the protocol is not a way of managing Brexit with Northern Ireland's unique situation. It was just a massive con. And like with any con, you don't carry on with it once you've got what you wanted out of it. So these people are now anxious that it be dropped with all haste. They're just thinking, well, we've got what we want. Why are we still persisting with it? They attempted to say that the EU were being unreasonable in the implementation of the protocol and that the measures imposed presented no risk to the single market at all. But here we have a statement, a government spokesperson admitting, perhaps without meaning to, that there is a serious risk to the single market. After all, why would they bring up the risk to the single market if Brexit poses no threat to it? So they're now changing their pattern once again to suggesting that the whole single market, the largest free trade area in the world, should be compromised just for the sake of a few hundred disaster capitalists who wanted to be a bit richer. So we have a situation whereby a significant chunk of the Conservative Party want the protocol ditched. The new hardline leader of the DUP, Edwin Poots, wants the same thing. The EU and the United States, on the other hand, have explicitly stated that the protocol must be respected. One more month before President Biden visits and will be asked to comment on the situation. And now we have an unofficial deadline of July the 12th. Not that I would pay too much attention to that. It's a deadline given by an anonymous source, reported in a newspaper, and it isn't even like they said what would happen on that day. All they said was, the EU have got until July the 12th to sort this out, or else we'll have to consider other things. What other things? Boris Johnson issued a lot of deadlines last year, if you remember, quite publicly, with threats to end Brexit talks altogether if the EU didn't do what he wanted. They never did, and he never followed through on his threats. So I would imagine that an unattributable deadline with no clear action stated can only possibly be intended to keep Brexit supporters quiet for a bit longer. Let them think that Johnson is finally about to get tough again, that this time he's going to do the thing that he keeps threatening to do but never does, by which time he will hope they forgot all about it or have been distracted with something else. But then another thought occurred. So earlier today, I talked about an EU proposal for a solution that would melt away much of these contentious trade barriers, at least between Britain and Northern Ireland. There is no reason why it couldn't have been extended across the whole of the UK. Without repeating what I said earlier, it involves a temporary commitment to common standards that the UK could opt out of whenever it likes. Purely temporary to give more time to get better systems in place and doesn't stop him getting his US trade deal eventually. There isn't even a set date for this thing ending. Boris Johnson can end it whenever he likes. All part of the deal. So could these renewed bombastic threats in the media be a prelude to accepting the EU proposal and then claiming victory that they forced the EU to back down? People, particularly in Northern Ireland, would see the protocol easing right off. They'd see it all over the country because the media would happily report on it. They'd see the trade barriers being wound down. The media would bill it as the barriers were only there because the EU were being difficult, had nothing to do with Brexit, and that the UK had forced them to be reasonable. And the proof would be, well, we've still left the EU, and all of a sudden those trade barriers have melted away. So it must have just been the EU being difficult, and now it must just be that the EU have seen sense. Boris Johnson has faced them down. Is that what's going on? Or is it another attempt to kick the can down the road for some later date when Johnson hopes that he can just kick it across summer into autumn, autumn into winter, and so on? Time will tell, I suppose, but those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details, and until next time, I'll see you later.